Hi and welcome to Budget Model Railways. I thought I'd do a little update on my N-gauge layout. I'm going to talk about a few things. I've got a couple of new buildings, some construction ideas. I've got another project in the pipeline as well I'm going to talk about, and a book recommendation at the end. So there's quite a bit to stay here for. I'm sorry if the camera works a little shaky. I want to be able to move around the layout quite a bit, and that's a bit tricky with the tripod. I've also, on my old phone, I'm very tough on phones. I dropped my good phone and broke it. So I've reverted to my old phone. So if the film quality is not quite so good, I apologise. So the last time we'd basically done that end, which I was quite pleased with. And I've added the wall and a few bits and some people. So that's coming along quite nicely. Now I've added two more buildings. Now I had some leftover bits from other projects. And basically I've cobbled them together to make two more buildings. That sort of office block there. And this tall workshop building, which reminds me of a customer I used to have in Camborne, near where Kernow Models is, actually, down in Cornwall. And I've got a little goods yard area down there. These are just made quite simply. Metcalfe buildings are a bit like IKEA furniture. I didn't have enough bits to build the buildings. I had to do a lot of internals myself. But once you know how a Metcalfe building's built, it's quite easy to do. I did also have these. Found these in a box of bits. Oh, camera angle's gone a bit funny there. Which is the Metcalfe signal box, and there was a hut with it. I was trying to find, they do a really good little jig to do the steps, which is worth looking at. So I was pleased with this area. It helps the whole thing of the railway being in the landscape rather than on it. I have reverted to the excellent Pico back scene, the industrial town back scene. I have cut it about a bit to fit. Obviously, it's not finished. I've got coping stones to do on the top of the walls and things like that, and people and that sort of thing. I have now fitted the controller. I've made a bit of a hole in the back for the power cable to come out. And a few people quite rightly suggested that I can back them, the two units, cut a hole in the back of the other one so that I can leave the controller where it is. So I'm quite pleased with that. So I quite like the look of this. Those of you that have been following this, and it's not many of you, for some reason this hasn't caught people's imagination, but it's designed to fit in a motorcycle top box in 2 bits. So when people helpfully say, why don't you add this, why don't you add that, because physically this is all that will fit. But I am quite pleased with it. It's going to take the Kato Loco there quite nicely, and I'm pleased with the look of it. And I did a little bit of shunting the other night to test it, and being an Inglenook, it works very well. Lots of tidying up still to do, but generally quite pleased with that. So I said I'd speak about another project and a book. So the book recommendation is this. I got it from my local library. It is about 10 years old, but it's a fascinating book. It's changed. If you think you know about British Rail from 1948 onwards and beaching, this will change your mind. It certainly confirms what I always suspected, that beaching was actually trying to save the railways. In fact, more railways were shut prior to beaching than after beaching. And a lot of what was done afterwards was blamed on him, but it wasn't on his report. It's quite an interesting book. It points out some of the many successes of British Rail that were lost when the enthusiasts basically went, well, he did away with steam, I've got no interest in railways now. In fact, our railways have been very successful in places since then. Not always. But it's very interesting to see the other side compared to what you usually read. Controversial, I'm sure. Now, this then is going to be the next project, possibly. I've been after one of these for a long while. It's the Pico ST300 starter track set. So loop, some points and a couple of sidings. They're £72 new, but I managed to get this £52 unopened on eBay. So it's a bit of a saving. And I've got a project in mind for this, basically to show people, look, when you're wondering about buying track, you can buy this. I'll show you a layout. I'll show you what we can do with it. Because we can basically make an Inglenook layout, but with a loop. So that we can run trains round and shunt trains. It'll be really useful in a very small area. Really simple for a beginner because it's using set track. So I'm quite pleased with this. It'll be a while because I've got to finish some of the other projects. But I saw this on eBay, so I got it. So there we go. A project, a book, and progress on the layout. And I am quite pleased with that layout. If it doesn't rain tomorrow, I may even take it on the bike to something, but I think the forecast is pretty awful, as it has been for everybody. So there we go. Hopefully you get a bit of interest in my N-Gage layout, and I'll give you an update soon.